Apart from the 10 films I've just given to you, there's also 4 runners-up. They've been compiled by myself and another writer on our site, Mr. Brian Hartley. The first film on that list is Funny Games. Now, I'm really going against my own rules here, and I'm actually going to talk about the original and the remake. Both are by the same guy named Michael Haneke. He's a great director from Austria. The original was made in 1997, and it's in its original Austrian language, and then the second was an English language remake made in 2008 starring Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. You can watch either or because they're the exact same film, just in a different language, but I highly urge you to go check out the original. And you know what? Don't freak out about subtitles. If you actually give a movie a chance that has subtitles, you'll notice that in about a minute or two you start to catch on and you start to pick up the flow and you really end up enjoying the movie. It's always really fun to listen to a film and view it in its original language. It's great, and I would not recommend anything otherwise. So, the movie is very twisted. I mean, it follows a family who are completely terrorized by 2 very young and surprisingly youthful intruders. And they pretty much have no limits on what they do to these poor victims. It doesn't have a happy ending, it doesn't have any hope, and it really is just a study of how sick and twisted people can be when they have some very sick and twisted ideas. So, Funny Games, I highly recommend it. Second on the list is one that I've always loved around Halloween time. It's not necessarily a horror film, but it does have that whole Halloween, ghouls and ghosts and monsters theme to it. It's none other than Tim Burton's classic, Beetlejuice. First thing I'm going to say is Michael Keaton was completely robbed of an Oscar nomination for that movie. The way Keaton transformed himself into this slimy, disgusting, sleazy Beetlejuice was amazing. For the amount of time that he has on camera, you're constantly entertained when he appears. He's funny, but he's also terrifying. He's very creepy, and he's just perfect for the part. I love the story. I love Winona Ryder's character and how she's the only one who can see Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis's ghosts. I love the way it portrays the afterlife. These 2 people who haven't accepted that they're dead, and they're trying to fully understand and grasp the idea that they're no longer alive and life will not continue for them. And for that reason, I think it's a very unique and very comedic exploration of the afterlife and how we can become ghosts and haunt people that are still living. I highly recommend Beetlejuice. It's Tim Burton's best film, and if you haven't seen it, you're really missing out. So please check it out. There's a particular scene on a model of a neighborhood with a fake tree involving Beetlejuice himself that I think is utterly hilarious and a classic part of this film. I highly urge you to check it out and highly urge you to tell me what you think. The third film on this list of runner-ups that I'm going to talk about is none other than the cult classic Monster Squad. This film was a box office failure, and it was pretty divided when it came to the critics, but the cult following that it has achieved since its release in 1987 is incredible. This movie was very rebellious in its approach. It taught kids how to cuss, it taught kids how to smoke, and it definitely taught kids how to do things by their own rules and not really have any regard for what their parents are saying. We follow a group of small-town kids who are absolutely obsessed with horror films. They wear shirts that say Stephen King rules, and they're members of their own little monster club treehouse. So, the Universal monsters, aka Frankenstein, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and Dracula, come to their town and they want evil to take over for the rest of existence. They must find a book and preach a spell in order to prevent it from taking them over. Now, it is a scary movie at parts, and I really wouldn't recommend it for anyone under 13, but at the same time, it's also very much a teen film. It's also very much a film that's kind of aimed and marketed at younger audiences. So if you have teenage kids and you want to introduce them to a great horror film from the past, I would highly recommend 1987's cult hit Monster Squad. Last but not least, number 4 on the list of runner-ups is one that Ryan particularly wants to recommend to the audience. It's the Mel Brooks classic, Young Frankenstein. It's not necessarily a horror film, and quite frankly, in a time where you watch so many scary movies, it's nice to kind of take a break and watch something a little more funny. It's got everything humor-wise that you would ask for. Slapstick, intelligent humor, laughing till you cry, and it's really an excellently put-together comedy. It stars Gene Wilder, Peter Boyle as Frankenstein. It's a great film that Ryan loves to watch every Halloween, and he wants to recommend it to you. Because quite frankly, you can't always be scared, and sometimes you just need to laugh. But what makes it so appropriate for this list is because it takes from one of the greatest horror films ever made, and it takes its basis from Frankenstein. Mel Brooks's Young Frankenstein, watch it.